1:19 p.m. the 3rd of August 2014, on the way to the Chinese capital of Beijing. Flight number MH370, Malaysia suddenly disappears on the radar screen. The beginning of one of the greatest aviation mysteries, the greatest in human history. It's a giant plane. Carried 239 lives. Disappeared in that era. Radar. Observation satellite orbiting the Earth. It's supposed to be a very mythical story. So today, after a decade of searching, the answers have finally been revealed. A series of shocking revelations. Airspace dead spot between Vietnam and Malaysia. Technique of evading superfluous radar. Control the crew and passengers. The co-pilot's last desperate call for help. Where was the last stop of the ill-fated flight? And who was the culprit behind the tragedy? All will be answered in this analysis. The 3rd of July 2014, Kuala Lumpur International Airport, Malaysia. On that fateful night, flight number MH370, Malaysia Airlines international passenger flights, are being carried out. The final inspection. Prepare for a long journey. 5:34. To Beijing Capital International Airport. Capital city, Beijing, China. Operator aircraft is a Boeing 777-200 EA, the world's largest twin jet. The aircraft has a safety record. It's #1 in all planes ever made. With 2 engines, Rolls-Royce Chang 875 Giant. Use advanced composite ultralight material. Provides incredible flight performance. Long range is desirable. And excellent fuel economy. In addition to radio communication, it also has a navigation radar, transponder, and a communication system with SATCOM satellites. There were 227 passengers today, and 12 crew members. The passengers were from 14 different countries. There are 153 people. Chinese citizens are returning home. 2 Iranian passengers. It was later discovered he faked his passport to get on the plane. The captain of the flight was Zahari Ahmad Shah, 53-year-old. One of the great pilots, the most experienced in Malaysia. He also holds an important position in the national airline. My colleagues describe the captain was a master of engineering, with a total 18,365 flight hours, 16 years of driving experience. 777. The life of Captain Zahari. It's almost always about food, family, and planes. When not working, he is at home cooking and use a flight simulator to cultivate more experience. He also owns a YouTube channel dedicated for DIY projects, where he taught how to repair household appliances. If you look over, you can see Captain is someone who's had a pretty fulfilling married life with wife and 3 children. But actually, according to some speculation, just a few days before the flight, the captain's wife demanded a divorce from him. When I found out my husband was having an affair, The co-pilot was 27-year-old Farik Abdul Hamid. Co-pilot graduated from Lankai Aerospace Academy. He was trained to be a pilot. The MH370 was a Boeing 777 training flight. It's his last. Before that, he'd accumulated 2,763 flight hours. .30 local time. A total of 49,100 kilograms of fuel was injected into the aircraft, allowed to fly continuously within 7:31, 2 hours more than the expected journey. Nearly 5T magazine and 221 kilograms of pinlithium has been loaded into the cargo hold. Although there's a lot of fire risk involved. However, according to reports, they're packed very carefully. Plus, this isn't the first time goods like this are put up. Commercial flights. According to the plan, the plane will fly north over peninsular Malaysia, then through the South China Sea before reaching Beijing. 42 Min. 370 received takeoff orders from runway 32R.
MH370, the right way to go is number 32. Good evening.
The plane rises on a moonlit night. And this is the last time we saw MH370 with our own eyes before it's completely gone. 42 minutes and 5 seconds. Airport side license for MH370 climbing to 18,000 feet and go straight to a reference point called Igari. From here, it's relayed to Air Traffic Control, Kuala Lumpur. Above, frequency 132.6 MHz.
MH370, altitude 18,000 feet. Turn right, toward waypoint, IGARI. MH370, confirmed altitude of 18,000 feet, heading towards waypoint, IGARI. MH370, radar relay 132.6 Kuala Lumpur, goodbye. MH370, confirmed 132.6 Kuala Lumpur, goodbye.
Let's pay attention to the name Igari, because it's at the heart of our story. Today, this is one of the few reference points on the planet, surrounded by a total of 5 different airspace, including Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Singapore. 46 Min. Aircraft contact with Kuala Lumpur, and it's licensed to 25,000 feet.
Good morning, 370. Fly to an altitude of 25,000 feet. MH370, confirmed altitude of 25,000 feet.
50 Min. MH370 continues designation, climb to 35,000 feet.
MH370, climbing flying Inc. 350. MH370, maintaining flight level 350.
7 minutes. The captain made an announcement that the plane is maintaining at 35,000 feet. This is completely normal. But only 7 minutes later, the captain repeated this signal again.
MH370, maintaining flight level 350.
In theory, this additional call isn't necessary. Normally, pilots will only call in for two additional reasons. One is to accidentally forget and call back to ensure safety. There was something wrong with the plane's radio, and the pilot was afraid he'd miss the signal. The tone of the two calls is completely different. While at the first time, the captain said in a comfortable voice, in the second time, it seems more intense and urgent. It's as if he's very focused on something. Outside the cabin, the silence had enveloped. The passengers are resting. 19:24 seconds. MH370 receives command to redirect to SCC of Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam.
Malaysia 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good evening. Good night, MH370.
This controversial statement continues, a suspicious point. According to regulations, when you get an order from air traffic, the pilots will repeat that command to confirm. However, in this case, you can see the pilot missed it. He doesn't have enough time, or something's going on in the cockpit. One 22. The plane approached and passed through the Agari reference point. In just 9 short seconds, it's completely gone. The plane's transponder stopped recording. Following the signals from the last 37 seconds, the plane made a sudden 180-degree turn to the left. It seems that someone is deliberately interfering with the trajectory of the flight. Normally, the plane's autopilot mode allows only a certain angle of inclination, that the plane rotates at an angle of 180 degrees. The autopilot has been turned off. The time the plane disappeared was no accident. It happens at the exact time of the transfer between air traffic, Kuala Lumpur and Ho Chi Minh City. And that's true. It's a perfect plan. While in control of the plane. No, well, this is about the time that both sides of the ground station, Vietnam and Malaysia, relax attention. It's also called the air dead zone. While the Malaysian side assume that you have fulfilled your duty, the Vietnamese side is also simply handling some flights. Wait for a communication signal from MH370. 17 minutes after MH370 disappeared, the Vietnamese side realized, get back in touch with Malaysia. The captain of another plane tried to contact the MH370 crew. Use of the International Air Rescue frequency to forward Vietnamese air traffic control and requirements. But what this guy got, it's just a few faint groans. And the silence is terrifying. Where did MH370 go? The plane's transponder is off, but Malaysia's military radar, that doesn't depend on a regular transponder, was able to pick up MH370's signal over an hour later. According to the information provided, immediately after turning left, the plane has continued to move southwest, across the Malaysian peninsula. This, at the same time, has helped it move between the Adiz region of Thailand and air route M765, avoid all directions of traffic. It should be noted that Adiz is here, It's the room identification area, not under the control of the Thai army. From this, it can be concluded that the pilot was extremely fluent in airspace. He's trying to get the plane out. The observation of any ATC. The more this argument is confirmed as it passes through the Malaysian island of Penang. According to information revealed in the 4th of December 2014 by anonymous investigators published in the New Straits Times, First Officer Farik Abdulhamid tried to make calls for help. Desperate for the ground, MH370 flew at a low enough altitude to the cell tower in Penang. You can pick up the phone from the pilot. However, these signals are extremely weak and quickly disappeared after that. Obviously on the plane, the passengers and crew, they were asked to turn off the phone in their journey. So when anyone tries to make a call, there's definitely something bad going on. And if you have any doubt, then pay attention to a different kind of signal. It's actually more reliable than a call from the co-pilot. That's SATCOM. As well as many other aircraft, Boeing 777, equipped with satellite communication equipment. It's called SATCOM. Receiving and sending signals from the ground. Give the record details and all the flight data. This SATCOM system, connected to the Inmarsat network, it's your telecommunications company, specialized in providing global mobile services via 3 geostationary satellites. Boeing 777-200 will connect to SATCOM and the ground through the SDU equipped on the plane. But at 2:03, when the Malaysian side trying to contact the plane by satellite message, it didn't respond. The Australian investigators said maybe the plane lost power. If a pilot wants to do something shady, they roll the switch on the cockpit. They'll find a way to shut off the power by pressing the buzz tie switch and the battery control switch on the steering wheel. In this way, the plane will lose almost all of its power, including the signal delivery system. In this case, the motor can still work normally because they're provided with their own power source. It's a small note that when the power goes out, the aircraft will attempt to restart the APU backup power. So, operator will now turn on the APU switch, then turn it off. Prevent the self-start from happening. You can see that the hijacker was really smart. He has experience in the village for systems on planes. Turning off APU wasn't too scary for him, because when the plane doesn't have any power, a turbine underneath the fuselage that creates energy by spinning in the wind. It's going to generate a small amount of power used to provide for the captain's equipment and some other important systems, like a navigation screen, navigation equipment, of course not included, lighting system and automatic driving system. Now the plane has turned into a spooky machine, silently galloping through the night. Then, other passengers and crew members. Where are you? Why didn't they give any reaction? And the answer is this. The hijacker took over. Time for the passengers to rest. Reduce the plane pressure to the lowest level to easily control them. At altitudes up to more than 10,000 meters, when the oxygen content drops to a minimum, the passengers will quickly get into trouble, loss of consciousness, and become unconscious. Although the oxygen masks are chambered down, but it can only keep the passengers breathing. Within 22 minutes, an air conditioner can only last 44 minutes. The oxygen tank in the cockpit was on for 27 hours. He managed more than 200 people. Now the mastermind in the cockpit. Start turning the plane northwest, across the Strait of Malacca. It keeps going northwest, to a reference point called Vampi. And from Vampi, take flight 571, towards the new reference point of Mekar. After passing south of Mekar at 2:22, all traces from the flight have disappeared completely on any type of radar. From here, the hijacker would have fooled the investigators that the plane could crash in Benken Bay or the Andaman Sea, when his real intentions is to take a plane into the Indian Ocean, one of the world's 2 deepest oceans. And the hijacker himself couldn't have expected that. He's been tracked by the satellite system on the plane. Denounce. 2:25. Suddenly, SATCOM satellite system is back to normal. Flight data unit. SCU sends a login request. This happened just over an hour after passing through the Igari. It's important to know that SATCOM works on a principle. It's not getting a signal every hour. It'll send out a consultation. The plane crashed. Indian bed proven by Inmarsat. This satellite company says they've determined the flight path of the Boeing 777-200R by measuring the Doppler effect of the ping sounds emitted according to the cycles from the plane. Although the main reporting and communication system of MH370 has been turned off, but one of Inmarsat's satellites continued to get 7 automatic pings every hour from the plane. The last recorded signal was at 8:11 By analyzing these pings, the experts of the Air Accident Investigation Branch, AAB, it was concluded that the plane actually flew for at least 7 hours, moving along the south corridor towards the Indian Ocean, and fell to a location in the 7th arc, Western Regions per Australia, located at a depth of more than 4,000 meters. As if to support the above argument, the experts also confirmed on the plane equipped with underwater locator transmitter up to 40 days after the accident. And if there's a strong enough impact, it can make sound, recorded by an underwater device called a hydrophone. Here are some of the audio signals, supposedly of MH370. After determining that the plane crashed in the Indian Ocean, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, Malaysian Indonesian Navy, U.S. Air Force, the same number of countries, start organizing a search operation with the largest scale, the most expensive cost to find MH370. Even if there is no final result, some of the debris is believed to be an ill-fated plane, has been found. In the 29th of July 2015, the first shard was filled with Chamallus stellatus. That washed up on the shore was Rinian, small island of the Indian Ocean, 700 kilometers east of Madagascar. The serial number is intact. This allows investigators to determine it's the side flaps of a Boeing 777. Many other fragments. It's also found on beaches in South Africa, Madagascar and Mozambique in total quantity up to 41 pieces. These fragments seem to attest to MH370 actually crashed in the southern Indian Ocean. A lot of people are curious about this. The true identity of the killer, who hijacked the plane and tried to crash it into the sea. If they're terrorist organizations, they will not hesitate to take responsibility and pose a threat to global security. And if the plane fails, it couldn't have flown that far. Lost in another dimension, or being swallowed by a black hole, it's even more of a far-fetched theory. In fact, at the time of the accident, a lot of pilots, former pilots and experts, even the Prime Minister of Australia agreed that the captain himself, Zaharia Macha, is the hijacker in the story. As I said before, the captain is actually having marital problems. He may have hijacked the plane with suicidal intent. There's strong evidence for this claim. That's right after MH370 went missing. It's a sophisticated flight simulator from Microsoft. It was found at the captain's house. Report by Australian Transport Safety Bureau, HTSB, published show 6 weeks before the fateful flight, someone deliberately used the tissue equipment to fly a route very similar to the route of MH370 to the Strait of Malacca, then turn left into the southern Indian Ocean. It ended up running out of fuel. This is really, it's not a persuasive conclusion. In fact, in 2015, on German flight 9525, due to severe depression and suicidal ideation, vice flag of flight locked the captain out of the cockpit and trying to control the plane that crashed into the mountain. It killed all the passengers and crew. Even more convincingly, the hijacker of MH370. There are skills. They have a very good understanding of aircraft and the airspace. Something that no one in the cockpit has outside the captain. Maybe he asked the co-pilot to leave cabin to get drinks and then lock the door. And then do your behavior. That's also why the co-pilot couldn't return to his position to try to make calls. Call for help on the ground. In the case of hijackers, not the captain. One thing is for sure. He must be someone who's been very well trained. A master of technology. Put the plug on the plane and hijack the cockpit. Or as explained by some sources, the CIA itself used his sophisticated tracking system to control MH370. What's the point? Only the insiders understand. In the documentary MH370, Netflix tried to come up with all kinds of theories. The disappearance of the plane. But it's never mentioned. The captain tried to use it to kill himself. They even said that Vietnam did not coordinate in the search for MH370, while Vietnam was one of the first countries participate in this activity. In the end, remember, the captain or anyone else flying the plane could be suspected. But the plane was deliberately shut down, connected to the Earth, and plunge into the sea. It's the most supported theory from the point of view of aviation and science. The countries will never spend a huge amount of money to search in the open sea, if that's nonsense. In fact, they soon had their own answer. After a decade of disappointment, until 10 years after the disappearance, New Location Technology, WSPR, we have once again confirmed the fate of MH370. 2023, Richard Godfrey. RETIRED aerospace engineer from the UK. I worked with NASA Morning Airbus with his colleague Dr. Hans Coetzee and Professor Simon Maskell, with the support of the University of Liverpool, UK, claims to have used WSPR technology to find the missing plane. WSPR. It's a weak signal radio system. Weak signal propagation reporter. Use of high-frequency centrifuge to send signals around the world. Typical frequencies range from 3 MHz up to 28 MHz. Transmit power level up to 5 west continuously, and the transmission time is 110.6 seconds. In a 229-page report, the researchers said, "This technology has been developed over the last 4 years, and the results show new, credible evidence. They're consistent with Boeing's analysis and the University of Western Australia of debris recovered around the Indian Ocean." It's important to know that when a plane flies over the WSPR, it'll jam the signal, and these records are stored in a global database. The Dutch expert has identified 130 turbulence in WSPR signal in the southern Indian Ocean. You're sure this is evidence of the final flight path of MH370. The disturbance ends at a point just outside the 7th arc, in an area has not been performed by any previous search activity. The plane's new position is also at a depth of 4,000 meters, way per Australia, 1.560 kilometers to the west. To experiment, Goldfree conducts a flight piloted by an experienced pilot. Zigzag over the Indian Ocean, with many different speeds and altitudes to avoid being discovered. And then a hypothetical crash was done. The results of the WSPR data analysis show that actual drop point and hypothetical drop point just 30 kilometers apart. Richard told the BBC that just one more search was needed. They're definitely going to detect MH370. The 3rd of August, 2024, on the 10th anniversary. Government of Malaysia announced the relaunch of the search for MH370. The goal is to clarify the cause. There's an exact answer with the families of the dead. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said they are going to invite the marine robot company Ocean Infinity of the United States. The unit has committed to using the new analysis and innovative technology under the motto, "Not found, no fee," in efforts to salvage MH370. Another company is Deep Sea Vision. The use-based company also revealed will send suggestions about the operation to the Malaysian government in the middle of the year. This company has recently attracted attention when their deep-sea exploration team statement that took a supersonic image of the plane about Malaysia Airlines lost in the Central Pacific 87 years ago. And surely the world has every right to hope that MH370 will be found in the not-too-distant future.